Another week of Raw and another week of negativity by a majority of fans on our Facebook, Twitter, Google Plus, and YouTube feeds. Captain Critton said, nothing really besides Ambrose stood out from the show. It was just another episode of Raw. If you didn't see, you didn't miss anything. Reigns injured, Wyatt's not there, Jericho's gone, no Big Show or NXT. Why do we give a shit about Big Show right now? That's my question. Dew says the way Raw ended was beyond dumb. There's no science behind figuring out why. I had such high hopes for tonight after the first hour, but then it faded fast. I don't know anymore. Radio Under the Influence said, anyone feel bored with the WWE product lately? Ambrose and Rollins can only carry so much. I didn't think Raw was that. I think it started slow and built up. I didn't think it was that bad of a show. I don't know what you guys thought, but that's my feeling.
Yeah, I'm very much in line with that. That it wasn't a bad show. There just wasn't really anything that stood out. There wasn't a lot of exciting moments. And yeah, like Kevin brought up, you were missing a lot of standout guys. Like Reigns was out, the Wyatts weren't there. Big Show's debatable, but like you don't really have your internet darlings.
Right.
But I mentioned it on the Facebook page. Raw wasn't bad. I mentioned this about Night of Champions earlier, but again, this was popcorn. Well, I wasn't expecting anything much out of this Raw, and really, we're kind of in the off season for WWE anyway. So, yeah, this is just kind of the natural downtime for them.
Harrison, any thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with Nick on that one. It is the natural downtime for the WWE, and at the same time, I think they had a lot of hopes that Cena, Reigns, and Lesnar were going to carry them through the rest of the summer, at least the beginning of fall, until they start the road to WrestleMania. I think they were hoping to ride the wave of those three, and with Reigns getting injured, it kind of hurt them. The thing is, this isn't a new experience. It feels like the WWE in the past 5 years has laid all of their hopes on one guy to really spark the show. And it's something they've been doing by having like Cena be at the top of the show, Triple H does it too, where they want to have one guy be like the MC of Raw and get the crowd hyped. Like he's the comic that's forced to come out at the beginning of the show and kind of get you excited for the rest of the main events, but that's his job. It's something that WWE's been doing for the past few years, and I think it's starting to bite them a little bit because they're relying on these guys, they're getting injured, and then now they have these lulls where they got to kind of, maybe not scramble to figure out what to do, but you can definitely tell that they don't really have an answer for situations that they run into like this. And this is what they had last year. This is what we had last year when you and Nick were talking about the fact that Ryback was going after the belt. I mean, who really wanted that?
I don't know. I think Ryback did.
Okay, Ryback did, but fair point, Joe. I retract that statement.
So I have to ask you guys at this point, what do you think WWE is doing wrong in your point of view?
I don't think they're doing anything wrong right now. I think they're doing all right for themselves. It's just bad luck with these injuries, with Daniel Bryan, with Roman Reigns. Why it's kind of debatable.
Yeah, I forgot about Daniel.
Yeah.
I know once you have a Garvin, it's all downhill.
Yeah.
Yeah, really. Yeah, the That's awesome.
I think it's what WWE did wrong over the past 5 years, up until they started up NXT and they started producing more of the talent, like the Sami Zayns, the Adrian Nevilles, the Shields, the Wyatts, those guys. I think now they're finally starting to get to a point where maybe the next year or the year after that, we won't be having this conversation because they will have built up that pool of talent that can replace the Cenas, the Ortons, where if one of them gets injured, they won't necessarily have to make do with B or C level talent. They'll have other guys they can rely on. It's just that for so long they rode the Cena wagon or the Orton wagon, and they didn't have that that reserve of talent. Now they're kind of building it up.
Okay.
They're kind of in the rebuilding phase.
Nick, I think you're onto something, and I think it has something to do. I kind of had a clarifying moment today. I watched Impact earlier today, and then I watched Night of Champions later today. And what I've noticed is that Impact is really good at making either the entire show is awesome or the entire show sucks. It's not like they rely on one storyline or like one particular thing, at least not anymore, to really carry the entire show. Every division, every match, every storyline has the same amount of energy and the same amount of passion behind it. And the WWE, Nick, and I think you're onto something here with the lack of talent, you don't get that from them. I mean, when you look at the main event title picture, yeah. When you look at the tag team title picture, okay. But when you look at the mid-card titles, you just don't get that same level of passion. The Divas Championship's down to really 3 or 4 women and in the division, and that's all. You get the impression that the WWE really doesn't want to have that same kind of larger, that same kind of bubbling excitement throughout their entire thing. What they want is they want to have a situation where they're bringing people up and then letting them down and then kind of warming them up for the giant boil at the end of the show, which is what they want you to do, as opposed to get you excited for the entire show, carry you through the entire show, and then kind of spike it at the end.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting theory, Harrison.
So I don't know if that's a case of talent, if that's a case of booking, but when you see, because really when you look at the two products side by side, and yeah, you take the cynical route if you want, I don't give a shit, but if you do take the two products on their merit, you can definitely see two different styles emerging here. The TNA wants you to be passionate about every single storyline they put out there, whether or not it's good or bad. They're going to be like, this is awesome, you should pay attention. Whereas the WWE is like, this is great, but we got a promo for something later. Oh, wait, did you see what Cena said earlier today? They want you to be excited for the main event. Like, they want that MC moment that they're pulling you through 3 hours for. And I think that's why people get so tired by the end of the 3 hours, because it's really this one storyline that's pulling you through the entire freaking thing all the way to the end, and then that's got a payoff for everything.
Yeah, I think we'd be seeing something different by now if it weren't for the fact that that strategy kind of works for the WWE when everybody's healthy. Like, when Cena's healthy, when Orton's healthy, it's all going fine. It's when they get injured that everything starts to fall apart, and they're just kind of hoping and praying that something doesn't go wrong when wrestling is one of the industries where if something can go wrong, it really will. It's the epitome of Murphy's Law.
Yeah, Nick, exactly, and that's what made me think about it. Is you're absolutely right on that. It's when everything's going well for the WWE. When they can get every cog in the machine working. It's amazing to see, and it's kind of a miracle that it happens. But it's when that one cog is missing, it just grinds everything to a halt, and they're just kind of going forward in leaps and stops and kind of like trying to just get to the point that they can get something put together. And now really hurts because two of the biggest up-and-coming stars that they have, Daniel Bryan and Reigns right now, are out. And Daniel Bryan, we got to be honest here. Is there anybody who's really thinking he's going to come back with any kind of authority?
I think he'll come back with a bang.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
I think if he comes back, makes a Rumble return, then yeah, absolutely, that he'll come out with a bang. Now, whether that'll have any staying power is debatable.
That's my thing. I think the Daniel Bryan we're gonna get is the Daniel Bryan. We're gonna get the Daniel Bryan that's gonna be the same like HBK we got after the casket match with Undertaker, where he re-injured his back. If you remember, where he landed back first on the edge of the casket, he was never the same after that. I think we're gonna get that Daniel Bryan back. We're gonna get somebody back who can wrestle, but not nearly at the level that they did before.
Yeah, he's probably gonna be wrestling a slower, more methodical style now. Like, no more diving headbutts and none of the crazy shit.
Yeah, his wife wants to keep him around, I guess, so slow down, honey. It's great.
Yeah,
why are you doing all this work? Just do barely enough to make the paycheck. That's what I do.
I think we're going to start seeing a big change from WWE. I think they finally recognize that they can't just count on everything to go exactly as planned, because as mentioned before, they took a big hit in talent this year with Punk leaving, all the injuries, the fiasco with Del Rio, the ongoing fiasco with Mysterio. I think they finally I think they're finally starting to figure out that they can't continue business as usual, that they've got to mix things up.
I think
I totally agree.
that's definitely a strong point, Nick. I think you're right. Yeah, things are going to have to change. And man, why is everything so fucked up with WWE all of a sudden? Because I keep forgetting about the Mysterio thing.
Yeah, they want that to stay quiet because that is a huge deal waiting to blow up in their faces if Mysterio goes public.
Wait, okay, hold on a second, back up. Okay, to be completely honest, I've been kind of out of the loop on a lot of this stuff for the past few weeks, with just life. What's been going on with this Mysterio thing?
Mysterio's been trying to get out of his contract, and I believe he wanted out before the Del Rio thing happened, but that really exacerbated the whole issue. Mysterio got pissed. He hasn't been cashing his paychecks, and the scuttlebutt from everybody is that he wants out in the worst way possible.
Like he's not coming back. He will not come back to work.
He's gone. He hasn't gone to like all the outlets and screamed from the rooftops, but he's made it known that as soon as he's out, he's going straight to AAA. Like he actually recorded the video message that played at the end of AAA's biggest show. It was the same show that Del Rio debuted at.
Holy crap. That is a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, if they want a guy who's just going to do the same old, I mean, AAA can have him, in my opinion. But I am not a Del Mysterio fan, either one of them. So
I think Mysterio will actually reinvent himself down at AAA because I think he's been. I don't think he's wanted to be in WWE for a while, but I think it really only boiled over relatively recently.
Okay. Do you guys think WWE requires competition at this level before Raw becomes the show that everyone's been missing since the end of the Monday Night Wars?
Kinda, if you can consider NXT competition. Because it's getting more and more obvious that people are starting to prefer more and more people are starting to prefer NXT over the flagship programming. And once you start getting more of the big names like your Sami Zayns, like your Kevin Steens, once you start getting them on the flagship programming, I think it will I think the flagship programming will get a noticeable increase in quality and attention.
So you think it's just this certain guys that have been going through the program? I mean, because with WWE wanting the Performance Center and NXT to help develop guys the way they want them to be seen, do you feel that we're really just going to get the same cogs in and out, or do you think we're actually going to see a change?
I think we will start to see a change because along with what's going on down in NXT, we are starting to see more and more of the reins of power shift into Triple H's hands. And I don't necessarily know if having Trips in charge as opposed to Vince will really change anything at the fundamental level, but I think the stage is getting set for a Raw that we can watch for 3 hours and not bitch. I think the stage is getting set for that.
Oh, well, whoa. We'll be out of a job.
Well, I mean, then FTW will become just a circle jerk of everybody, just adulating Raw and heaping praise upon them rather than what we're doing now, I guess.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, we're really... I mean, then if that becomes a flagship show, then we're going to be like, hey, remember when we had Cena? Those were the times when Cena was on.
No, we'll just make Nick watch Raw, and we'll call him a hipster every time he references it.
Well, he is watching Total Divas and NXT, so
God damn, dude.
He's not only that NXT hipster, he's also the sheep watching the
Total Diva?
Watching the Total Divas.
You can't be a sheep and a hipster.
To be clear, I haven't watched anything from this current season of Total Divas yet.
Oh, of course not. You got to make sure that you got your bath set out. You got your bath salt and your bath oils in there. You got your glass of sangria, and then you just put on Total Divas, and then Nick, you got your night set, man. That's how you unwind after a tough night out with the girls.
I'm waiting for a few more episodes to roll out so I can binge watch all of them on a day off.
Well,
I'm gonna Orange is the New Black the shit out of this.
I gotta be honest. Every time I see, and I don't know what made this connection in my head, but every time I see a thing for Total Divas, I keep thinking, you know what? I should really start watching Project Runway. I keep hearing it's an amazing show, but I never get a chance to watch it. So every time I see a promo for Total Divas, I'm like, I gotta watch Project Runway. I just keep hearing it's amazing.
I have never had that thought before, so clearly you are
Really?
far more advanced into that than I am.
Well, Nick is the hipster. Harrison apparently is the person who's awaiting the sex change.
Dude, I'm sorry, but I've heard that Project Runway is an amazing show. It's like reality that isn't terrible. From what I understand. Anyway,
I was told Sex and the City was a great show too. Doesn't mean I watched it.
Oh, that show was terrible.
Here's
the question. Here's the question I have about this. So, doesn't Raw kind of have competition into a show that they have on Sci-Fi called SmackDown? Why does it have to be NXT?
Because SmackDown is the Raw recap show. SmackDown has not SmackDown has not been a formidable opponent for Raw in quite a long time.
But my point is, they have the IP. They also have a pay-per-view where they put these two shows against each other. So why, if they're looking for well, no, they have that. They have that card. Basically, the cards are all still in the deck that the WWE can whip out if they want to make SmackDown versus Raw a thing again. I mean, that was something that I kind of liked the brand war a little bit, especially in the beginning. It was pretty good. It kind of petered off at the end, and then when they revived it, it was kind of like, oh, well, this is a good idea, but they just kind of shot it before it was really had a chance to get some legs underneath itself. But I think that SmackDown versus Raw has a lot more potential than NXT versus Raw. NXT is an up-and-coming show. I know NXT,
so we're gonna do
a lot of people are watching it.
We're going to do the brand extension again?
Why not? I mean, first off, NXT is rising. It does not have nearly the penetration that SmackDown has. I mean, let's be honest. There aren't nearly as many people watching one versus the other. NXT's rising, yes. It's interesting because it's not available on cable. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
I think the WWE Network has a wider viewer base than Sci-Fi does.
That could be very valid.
Sharknado 2 brought in an insane amount of ratings. It was the highest rated show for Sci-Fi. I know that. And I bet WWE was just killing themselves that Sharknado 2 got higher ratings than SmackDown.
With its
you don't see that in the Did You Know card. Exactly. You don't see that in the Did You Know cards. Oh, man. So for me, I think SmackDown would be a much better competition than NXT.
Yeah, it certainly has that potential, but there's a lot of it has a lot of potential to make that happen. I guess if they want to do anything further than change up the commentary, which I mean that's a promising sign in and of itself that Tom Phillips is basically getting his own show. Like they said that it's basically his show to announce now. So I mean that's an automatic bump in quality right there.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, let's take a step back here. All right, when we talk about the Monday Night Wars, what do we want to see? Do we want to see the two giants slugging it out in the ring of WCW when it was in its prime, and when WWE was in its prime, and when Monday Night, well, anyway, when the two shows were side by side slugging it out? Do we want to see that, or do we want to see the stuff around it, like when DX invaded WCW, or when Bischoff spoiled Raw? Do we want to see that stuff? Because if you want to see the two giants going at each other and slugging it out that way, then definitely SmackDown versus Raw. But if you want to see that kind of mischievous pranking thing, I think you got to have NXT. You got to have NXT, the internet underdogs. And if they did take on WWE Raw that way, do invasion shows and really kind of go after Raw, I think that would really help both programs if you want to take that side of the Monday Night Raw, the Monday Night Wars.
If you wanted to go that latter route, the first thing you'd have to do is get NXT out the tape delay, because that delay is massive right now.
How massive?
Uh, NXT is at least a month behind its air dates,
Oh, okay,
or the
okay.
air dates are a
Holy
month behind the
crap.
tape.
So
Yeah.
they're totally TNAing it up.
Basically, yeah.
Okay, yeah,
Like,
they got to go live, or at least a few days. if you
I
want to do that.
I thought they actually were live, but
I thought they were weak. I thought they were
Just
that
the-
weak. I thought it was like SmackDown.
no, just the specials are live. Otherwise, they
Okay.
do like 3 or 4 tapings in a location.
I thought they were
Hmm.
always at
Okay.
the Full Sail Arena or whatever it was.
There have been times when they've done other Florida locations.
Okay. Well, I mean that actually is an interesting point on all that. I mean that I'm all over the place tonight, guys. No, I mean just the idea of NXT versus Raw as opposed to SmackDown versus Raw. Because I don't think we're going to see SmackDown versus Raw because we got rid of the brand division. You know, we're not drafting guys to shows anymore.
Mhm.
We can't go back. We can't do that without that aspect because you can't keep having guys cross over shows. You
What
need
if
to
you
get certain guys on certain shows. That way, there's a reason for them to want to support their own show.
What if you just drafted from NXT, kind of like the NFL drafts from college football?
But you can't. If you've got John Cena on one show and Randy Orton on the other show, they can't be fighting each other on Raw and on SmackDown.
Oh, you're talking about completely gaining it that far. Okay, yeah, I
Yeah,
can see that.
I go back. I mean, hell, even do SmackDown only pay-per-views. Do a Raw only pay-per-view. You know, that would be then the guys can be proud of the show they're on. And then maybe if we had NXT in there as well, then SmackDown versus NXT could be a show. Could be pay-per-view. And then you guys get, then you get stuff like that there. And then you get when you come to do the draft, then you've got 3 parties in the draft. That, I mean, I think that changes things up, but that goes back to stuff they've already done, and stuff they've already shot down they don't think is valid anymore, which I think is bullshit because, when we had SmackDown, Raw, and ECW, we had a very similar setup.
Mhm.
So, I mean, that's I guess where I feel they could, if they went back to that. Well, I think they have the potential to do better, but they really need to market each show as its own, and market each show. I mean, to fight against the other show. And dear God, do I say it, to get viewers to the other shows, intentionally tank Raw.
Whoa, okay, that's not happening. I'll tell you that one
It's
right
not
now.
going to happen. It's never going to happen. But to actually make people truly believe that Raw isn't going to be the top dog, that it's going to be SmackDown, or God forbid NXT, and then Raw can later retaliate. Then you have these shows battling each other and trying to build up their own merits. I mean, SmackDown had a core group of guys when Heyman was booking that really put eyes back on that product. If they were to do that again, I think it could be a good thing. And unless you guys have anything else to say,
No?
we should move on to
TW Podcast.